Hello and welcome to another new video for knowledge. So in this video, I am going to explain you about stoichiometric defect. It is there in the chapter of solid set, which is there in both ISC and CBSC, and it is very important for your competitive exam also. Okay. So now, what is stoichiometric defect? Basically, it's a subpart of point defects. Okay. So what is stoichiometric defect? When the ratio of the number of positive and negative ion is not disturbed by the defect present in the crystal, then the defect is referred to as stoichiometric defect. Okay, it means when the positive and negative charge of the crystal is not disturbed, that is, it remains same in presence of the defect, then it is known as stoichiometric defect. Basically, there are four types of stoichiometric defect which we are going to study in this video. That is vacancy defect, interstitial defect, Schottky defect, and Frenkel defect. First, I am going to give you subpoints or the definition of vacancy defect. I hope this definition is clear, so I am erasing this. So now I am going to explain you vacancy defect with a diagram. So now let me draw a diagram. Okay, consider this is a crystal. Okay, consider I am explaining vacancy defect. Okay, consider this is a structure of crystal. Now, when some of the lattice site in the crystal are unoccupied, it's a lattice site you can see, and some of the lattice site are unoccupied. That means it is vacancy defect. Okay, the density of the substance means the density decreases as some of the lattice site are unoccupied, and the defect develops on heating. Okay, when you heat a certain crystal, then this type of vacancy defect occurs. That means some of the lattice site gets unoccupied and its density gets decreased. Okay, and it is basically shown by non-ionic compound. So I am writing sub points which will be more memorable for your exam purpose. Okay, it is basically shown in non-ionic compound. Okay, basically shown in non-ionic compound. Density gets decreased. Density gets decreased. Developed on heating, and lattice space unoccupied. I have just written the key terms that will be more beneficial for you to remember. So vacancy defect occurs in basically occurs in non-ionic compound which develops on heating and its density gets decreases as some of the lattice space remains unoccupied. So this was all about vacancy defect. Now I am going to explain you interstitial defect. So I am erasing this. Vacancy defect done. So I am erasing this also. Now interstitial defect. Okay. Now, what is interstitial defect? So basically, this occurs when a lattice space gets occupied in an interstitial state. That means it gets leaves and gets inside in an interstitial state. It gets stuck. Okay, so this is known as interstitial defect. So basically, the density of the substance get increased. Okay, as you can see, the lattice state has increased, so its density gets increased, and it is also shown by non-ionic compounds. So in case of vacancy defect, some of the lattice site gets unoccupied, and here the interstitial state gets occupied by some of the extra lattice site. Okay, so this was the difference between vacancy and interstitial defect. Now I will be explaining you Schottky defect. Okay, first I will draw, then I will explain. Okay, so this is the basic picture or the representation of Schottky defect. Now, what happens in Schottky defect? Basically, this type of defect arises when some of the lattice site in the crystal gets unoccupied. Okay, it is basically shown in ionic crystal. Like NaCl, it is basically shown in ionic crystal and involves the missing of equal number of anion and cation. Now we have to keep one thing in mind. This type of defects, involves the missing of equal number of cation and anion. It is not possible that some of the sodium ions are missing more than some of the chlorine ions. It is not possible. So the missing is equal in amount of both cation and anion, and it is basically shown in ionic crystal. Okay. Now this crystal remains electrically neutral, and it is generally observed in the crystal structure possesses high coordination number. Means it is basically observed in such crystal which has high coordination number, and the positive and negative ion do not differ much in size. Like you can see, sodium and chlorine ion doesn't matter much in size. So this type of Schottky defect occurs in such type of compounds in which there is high coordination number and there is very less amount of difference in the size of cation and anion. Okay, so some of the examples are NaCl, then KCl, then KBr. Okay, these are some of the example, and you have to keep in mind basically this Schottky defect arises in S block and P block element. Okay, basically Schottky defect is for S block and P block elements. So now I'll be moving to Frenkel defect. Okay, so what happens? First, let me complete it. Okay, so what happens basically? This defect arises when an anion, when a cation, leaves its lattice space and get occupied in the interstitial state. Okay, so basically you can see here Ag, that is cation, has left its lattice site and has occupied its interstitial state. So this is known as Frenkel defect. Okay, this is known as Frenkel defect when a cation leaves its lattice site and gets occupied in its interstitial site. Okay, this structure is basically neutral and it is generally observed in D block, in the elements of D block and F block. Okay, now uh, for Frenkel defect, the uh, crystal must be in the crystal must possess low coordination number, and there should be much size difference in anion and cation. Here you can see silver and chlorine, they have a big difference in their size. So basically it is a opposite of Schottky defect. Schottky defect occurs in crystal which possesses high coordination number and the size is very less among the cation and anion. And for Frenkel defect, the crystal must possess low coordination number and there should be a more difference between the cation and anion. Okay, and it is basically observed in the elements of D block and F block. Okay, and some of the examples of Frenkel defect are AgCl, then AgBr, then AgI. Okay, these are some examples of Frenkel defect. So I hope you have understood what I have explained about vacancy defect, interstitial defect, then Schottky defect, then Frenkel defect. So if you have understood this video on stoichiometric defect, then do like, comment and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.